Awesome. Thanks, Amena. So welcome everybody to our class tonight. I am filling in for Kirsten Jones tonight. She couldn't be here, so I am very excited to paint with you all this really beautiful watercolor snowflake painting. So let's go ahead and start by going over the supply list of what we will need to paint tonight. And I do want to mention too that Stephen White is with us tonight. So if you have any questions pertaining to maybe a step that you missed or a color or a different supply, something like that, you can post that in the comment section. Stephen will be reading all of those and answering those questions and relaying some questions over to me. So let's go ahead and get started, you guys. So the great thing about this painting tonight is that it's a lot of pattern work. So you can really use any type of stretched canvas or any shape, I should say, or size of stretched canvas that you want to use. Tonight, I will be painting on a 12 by 12 stretched canvas, but the techniques and the steps will go for any size stretched canvas that you are working with tonight. You will definitely need some FolkArt Home Decor white Adirondack chalk paint. So this is going to be kind of like our primer for our painting tonight. And this is what is going to allow us to get that really beautiful watercolor effect that you see in the finished painting. Next, you are going to want to have some FolkArt matte acrylic paint, and the colors that we'll be using are French blue, Aqua, True Blue, and Patina. You're going to want to have an assortment of flat brushes, one bigger flat brush to prime our canvas, and then some smaller flat brushes to create our watercolor pattern. Some water is very important when you're doing a watercolor technique, of course, because we're going to be watering down our paint quite a bit. And then that brings us to the type of palette that you'll want to have with you tonight. So we called out either like a glass plate or some foam plates, and that's because we don't want like a paper plate or something absorbent to absorb the water that we're going to be adding to our paint. So a foam or a glass or even a plastic plate will not do that. And then probably the most important part of our painting tonight is a hot glue gun. So I think we called a medium hot glue gun, but really if you have a fine tip or a more wider tip glue gun, that will work too. And I see that palette paper is great because it's wax coated, so that won't absorb any of that water either. That's a great question. You'll want to have some extra water. Did I say that already? And a blow dryer. So a lot of times in our paint nights, we call it a blow dryer because we do a lot of drying in between steps. And that is probably more important than ever for our painting tonight, because that's going to help us create our watercolor effect. And if you don't have a blow dryer handy, the next best thing would be a straw. I'll show you how to do that too. I'll walk you through it. So without further ado you think we're ready to start, Stephen?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Yeah, we are definitely ready to start. Judith, that was a great question about palette paper, so I'm glad you asked. Yeah, I think we're good to go.
Okay, cool. All right, so the first thing we're gonna break out is our white Adirondack chalk paint. And like I said, this is going to prime our canvas and allow us to create a beautiful watercolor effect. So we are just going to base coat the entirety of our canvas with our white chalk paint. So it won't look like much because we're painting white on white, but it's really the texture of the chalk paint that we're looking for.
So you guys have probably noticed that Emma is painting on a different size canvas than the one Kirsten used. And so we had a question about what size do we need. Honestly, any size canvas will work. This is pattern painting, so you can always scale up, scale down with what you're doing.
Totally.
Emma, Kathy had a question. Will you be able to use the glue gun if you're using multimedia paper instead of a canvas?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes. Part of our snowflake resist technique we're not actually going to be removing the hot glue. I'm going to show you guys a different technique to create the, to make the hot glue snowflake look really crystal clear again once we do some painting over it.
Emma, what size exactly are you using? Is that a 12 by 12?
Yes, this is a 12 by 12. But like Steven said, you can use whatever size canvas you want to use.
Do you think there'd be a difference if instead of hot glue, you used a low temp glue gun or like glue work?
I think a low temp glue gun would work fine. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, guys, so once you base coat your whole canvas with your white chalk paint, I'm going to go ahead and use my blow dryer to dry my canvas. Okay, so once your canvas is nice and dry, this is where we are going to start using our hot glue. So everyone grab your hot glue gun. So now we are going to actually use our hot glue gun to create these snowflake patterns that you see in our finished painting, which is right here. I'll keep that there. Okay, so the first step we're going to do in creating our snowflake pattern is, and I just want you guys to know this before you start using your hot glue, we want the hot glue to go on in a pretty straight and neat line. And a helpful tip to do that is we want to hold our hot glue gun about like no further than ½ an inch over your canvas. So we're going to create a line with our hot glue like that. So the closer you hold your hot glue gun to your canvas, the more consistent your thickness of your line will be. I'll kind of show you guys what I mean. If I hold my hot glue gun like further, then we don't really get the consistency that we're looking for. So you make that initial line, and then you can kind of move your canvas around if that's easier for you. And we're going to make an X.
Um, Emma, Susan said that she was late and she's wondering why did you use chalk paint to base coat the canvas?
That is a good question, Susan. So the reason we use that chalk paint is because it acts as a really great primer on canvas to create a faux watercolor effect for the type of acrylic paint that we're going to be using. It's a little bit tricky to create a really close watercolor effect with acrylic paint typically. So the chalk paint just primes our canvas to enable us to have that really cool technique.
And
Okay.
how big should the line be if you're using a rectangular canvas like the one Kirsten used?
Yeah, so I can show you guys. I'm still making I'm still making the snowflakes around the same size that Kirsten did. She made some bigger ones, she made some smaller ones. I'm still gonna try to create a similar size for you guys to follow along. Okay, so we make that X. Now we're going to make another X, but going in opposite directions. So we're going to make an X going diagonally, one this way and one this way, but our lines are going to be shorter. So we're going to start a little closer to the center of our X and come up. And then stop a little sooner. And then the same thing in the opposite direction. Like that. Okay, and one thing I will say, just as you go along, if you've ever used hot glue guns before, you know it creates all of those tiny little stringy pieces of glue. We want to remove those because those little weird strings are going to resist the paint too. So the only hot glue that we want to have is the intentional hot glue gun lines, not those little strings. So when you make your initial snowflake shape, we're going to create some little V's coming out from our lines. One V there. One V here.
We had a question. Couldn't we use Elmer's white glue or washable glue for a muted, worn out look?
You could. I prefer the look of the hot glue just because I feel like you get a more crystal clear appearance. Okay, so that is our first snowflake. You can keep adding to it if you want and create some more V's coming from these initial lines.
Somebody asked, what if you don't have hot glue? I would say maybe if you could find a way to stencil, that is a solution. What do you think, Emma?
Yeah, that's a good idea. You can always paint the snowflakes with white paint after we do the watercolor technique. I personally think the hot glue method is really fun. It's very magical. Okay, and just don't forget, as you are making these beautiful snowflakes, just remember to remove those little stringy pieces from the hot glue. Okay, and then we'll just keep creating more snowflakes all around our canvas.
So Emma, if somebody didn't have if somebody didn't have the ability to do like a watercolor technique, is there a workaround that you might know of to sort of simulate watercolor effects?
Yeah, you could do a really pretty ombre with some really beautiful blue colors, whatever kind of you could blend paint together with some water if you're working with just regular acrylic paint and you don't have the chalk paint to help with that watercolor technique.
And there's a question about laying down hot glue, and I think it's a good question. How do you keep from getting a blob of glue at the beginning of each line?
That's a really good question. So if you want to, you can kind of practice your hot glue lines on a paper towel, but I really just like to go slow and steady. The more pressure that you apply to your glue gun, the bigger the blob is going to be. So if you try to keep that pressure consistent as you are pressing down on the trigger of your hot glue gun, then you'll find that you get less irregular sizes when you create those lines. Okay, so you can also start your snowflake with a little circle. And kind of branch off from there. let's do a little design where we make some kind of triangle patterns in between our main lines. Okay, oh, one more. Now we can go back to all of our snowflakes if we want to embellish them with maybe some bigger dots of glue on some of them, on the points of our snowflakes. But I am pleased with the look of all my snowflakes for my painting. So an important step you don't want to forget to do is you just want to go through and pick all of the little strings from your snowflakes, because we don't want those to be on our canvas when we start to do our watercolor technique. And we don't have to get too wild and pick every little stringy piece that we see, just all of the major ones that you can find. That should be fine. Okay, so once you are pleased with all of your snowflake shapes and you have embellished them the way that you want to, and you have picked all of the bigger pieces of little hot glue strings that you can, then we are ready for our next step. So this is where you're going to want to have your paint, your water, and your blow dryer, and your brushes, of course, and your palette. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to take some of my French blue and I'm going to apply some of my French blue onto my palette. Not a whole lot. And I'm going to take some water. So I have a little spray bottle of water here, but if you have a clean water basin and you just want to take your brush and add some water to your palette, that is totally fine. I'm going to spritz my paint here, and we're kind of looking for the consistency of like cream when we mix our paint and our water together. And the main thing that we want to do is we just want to make sure that our water and our paint are really well combined. Add a little bit more water if you still have some larger clumps of paint. And you'll kind of be able to tell once you brush through your palette, if the paint stays to the sides a little for an extended period of time and it doesn't rush to that open space, then you may want to water it down just a little bit more. We want this mixture, this initial mixture, to be pretty runny. Okay, my paint is moving a little bit more quickly when I brush it, so I think that is good. I'm going to take my French blue, since it is the lightest color in the palette that we're using. I'm going to do a whole wash all over my canvas with that French blue. And another important thing that I want to call out is the reason that this watercolor technique is so successful is because we're using all the same colors from the same color family. We're using all blues tonight. If you wanted to add a purple in there, or if you wanted to add a green, that would work too, because all of these colors are cool colors. So when they mix together, they don't create any muddy brown tones. Like if we mixed an orange in here, then we would start getting some weird brown tones. But if you wanted to do snowflakes with all purples or snowflakes with all pinks, you could totally do that as long as you're working in the same color family. So that's why Kirsten chose to use all blues for this painting. And we are going to do a wash over our entire palette. I'm sorry, over our entire canvas. Going all over our snowflakes. And just make sure you get all of those negative spaces, all of those white areas. Brushing back and forth to get in all of the little crevices of our hot glue snowflakes. Just want to cover all of those white spaces up. And if your paint puddles in a certain area, that is totally fine. It's going to help actually with our watercolor effect. Okay, so get yourself a clean palette if you need one. I'm going to rinse my brush a little bit. And now we're going to introduce some Aqua. And we don't need that much paint at all. The same thing that we did with our French blue, we're going to go ahead and water it down. and really make sure that our paint and our water are really well combined. And what I'm going to do is close to my snowflake, in whatever areas that you want to create some of this aqua color, I'm going to apply quite a bit of this water paint mixture to my brush. And I'm just going to kind of dab. So that you can actually see the water and paint pooling on your canvas. And I'm going to take my blow dryer and actually use the air from my blow dryer to manipulate the paint on my canvas. I'll show you. Okay, kind of creating that watercolor technique. And if you want to tone down your colors a little bit, go ahead and add more water. If your colors are a little too, what's the word I'm looking for? A little too opaque, then go ahead and water that down. And if you want to create some more subtle colors, in different sections of your canvas, then offload some of your paint from your brush so that you really don't have that much paint on your brush. And stroke back and forth to blend it in with that French blue that we created in the beginning. Okay. And then add more paint to your brush as you need it to create more depth of color. Okay, and as we're working on this canvas, we're going to see it build, okay? Okay, so we're going to add more of our aqua to our canvas, but in the meantime, I'm going to introduce a new color to our mix. I'm going to add some patina, which is this really pretty, almost kind of sea foamy green color. Add some water to that. Okay. I'm going to start adding some of that patina onto our palette. So when I do this watercolor technique, you can see I'm using just a brushing technique over our hot glue design to create some of that more subtle color. And then when I really want to build and make those colors more vibrant, I'll kind of almost spounce like you would with a stencil brush onto my canvas. And as we're going and as we're adding more of these blue colors to our canvas, we're blending the colors together, just stroking back and forth, spouncing when we want to create some more dense areas of color. You'll start to see these colors really build upon each other and really create a beautiful blended watercolor effect. And as you guys can see, the way I'm working with this right now, I'm just leaving these dirty paintbrushes with their color, and I'm not quite washing them yet because I'm just going to keep pulling from them and keep stroking them out and just really building on those colors. Okay, we have one more color to add that we haven't dipped into yet. I'm going to apply some True Blue. And this one I'm really going to water down just because this is the darkest color in our palette. We want this color to be really, really, really watered down. Take my blow dryer. And we're just going to keep working at it, you guys. And you can see because the paint that we're applying to our canvas is so damp, when we introduce a color right next to it, the two colors blend together really beautifully because there is so much water on the canvas and they're still so damp. They're really easy to blend. And if you think one color maybe is appearing too strong, you can take a lighter color or a darker color, or a paintbrush that is loaded with a lighter or a darker color and really blend right up against it. So maybe if this dark blue is a little too strong for me, I'll take some of my patina And I'll blend a little bit of that into my true blue, or vice versa. Okay, so once we've introduced color to most of my canvas, I kind of like to take a step back, see what the painting needs. It's a little bit green in this area, and our two really green blues are our Aqua and our Patina. So maybe I'll introduce a little bit of my French blue down in this corner, or some of my true blue. So let's go for some true blue. It's bouncing in some areas to create a deeper blue color. Okay, so really the beauty of this painting is that you can keep working it until you're pleased with your pattern and your colors. I'm gonna go ahead and blow dry this really quick. I like the way that mine looks. It looks very painterly and very blended, very wintry. Okay, I'm gonna take my blow dryer. Okay, so for our final step of our painting tonight, we are going to create this kind of faux resist on our snowflakes. So you're going to want to have some paper towels and some clean water for this next step. You could also use some rubbing alcohol instead of water, or a baby wipe would even work. But I'm just going to use paper towels and water, just a regular paper towel. I'm going to spritz some of my clean water on it, get it really damp. And you're going to take your wet paper towel and rub on top of your snowflake. And because we just dried our canvas so well, you don't even really have to worry about avoiding your canvas because the water, if you're using alcohol, I wouldn't do this. That's why I'm using water. But because we're just using water, we don't have to avoid the canvas. We can just rub the paint off of our snowflake to create a faux resist. Just like that. I'm going to go ahead and do that to the rest of my snowflakes.
So Emma, we had a question. We had two questions. Is the water going to take the paint off the canvas or dilute the color?
That is a great question. Because we blow dried this so well, it's not going to dilute the color at all. And the good thing about FolkArt acrylic paint is that it's really good at sticking to canvas, but it's not so great at sticking to the plastic and hot glue. So it's only going to remove the paint from your hot glue design, but it's not going to worry, you don't have to worry about it removing the paint or diluting the paint from your canvas because it is totally dry. That's a great question.
The other question was, so the glue still remains, and with the way Emma is doing it, she's going for a dimensional sort of textured effect with the glue. You could try to peel the glue off if you want to get like, just the shape of what was underneath. That is definitely a valid way to do it, but Emma is going for more of a textured kind of thing, wouldn't you say?
Yes, Definitely. And I will say, I love the dimensional look and I actually prefer it to taking the glue off, but we have done some testing in the studio and Kirsten found that actually, if you apply a really thin layer of hand lotion or Vaseline to your, to the spots of your canvas that you want to apply your hot glue design on, before you put the hot glue on, then the hot glue will peel right up if you don't like the dimensional look of the snowflakes. But personally, I do. I think it's really cute and festive looking. Okay, you guys, so that is our watercolor snowflake painting for tonight. I hope you guys all enjoyed painting along with me tonight. If you decide to post your paintings on social media, make sure to hashtag Make It With Michaels and Plaid Crafts. We're always looking under those hashtags and we love to see what you guys are creating at home. Again, thank you guys so much for painting along with us. We will be here the same time as tonight, next Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. So thank you guys for tuning in and we will see you next time. Bye guys.